So we're going to add and subtract radical expressions. So adding and subtracting is just like counting. You can only add or subtract them if they're the same. So you need like terms. So we're going to simplify the radicals and then combine if it's possible. So we have the square root of 81b to the third plus the square root of 49b to the third minus the square root of 16b to the third. I immediately notice all these are perfect squares. So these are square roots. Those are perfect squares. So those are going to come out. 9, 7, and 4. 9 plus 7 is 16. Minus 4 is 12. So I get 12 radical b to the third. The only thing is that's not the answer. B to the third can be simplified. The square root of b to the third, if you write it out, 1, 2, there's 3 of them. If they're square roots, you want to look for pairs of 2. So you have b squared. And if it's a pair of 2, it comes out. So the b squared comes out. So one b comes outside. The other b stays inside. So the answer would be 12b radical b. So we'll do a couple more problems. We'll do 3 total. So this is number 1, just to get some practice. So here's number 2. We have fractions here. Don't get scared. It's same deal. Radical 54x divided by 4 plus, and this is radical 6x over 4, but that's the whole quantity, so we can actually split up that radical. The square root of 4 is 2, so we can actually write 2 there in the denominator. So we are subtracting fractions. We need a common denominator. So I can multiply the second fraction by 2, and I'll have the same denominator. So it's 2 radical 6x over 4. And then radical 54x over 4. So notice over here, when I multiply the 2, I put it in front of the square root. That's how we write radicals. Some students will write it on the right side, and they'll accidentally put the 2 inside and do the 2 times 6. So I would always suggest putting it in front. Square root of 54, that is going to be simplified. So we need to find a perfect square that goes into 54. That's going to be 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. So 54 is going to simplify into 3 radical 6. So if there's an x in here, x, then all that means is the 3 comes out, but the x would stay inside. So we end up with 3 radical 6x plus 2 radical 6x. And they're both over 4. So the answer would be 5 radical 6x because we're adding those like terms. Denominators stay the same when you add. So it's 5 radical 6x divided by 4. And now we might as well change the index and see how that works. So here we have cube roots. So I've already written out my perfect roots, cube roots, because we have cube roots here. So before I even do the problem, I'm writing it all out so that I know how I can simplify these. The cube root of 32xy to the third. 8 is a factor of 32, so I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to have the cube root of 8 times the cube root of 4 So the 8's going to be a perfect cube. That's going to come out. The cube root of x, and then the cube root of y to the third. Um, y to the third is also a perfect root because we can divide 3 by 3. So this first radical actually simplifies into 2y and the cube root of 4x. The second radical also has this xy cubed piece. So that means if this is the same as this, then this is also going to happen, which means I'm also going to have the y come outside. I'm going to have the x inside the radical for my second term. So we're going to have 4 already outside, and then the cube root of 125, because that's a factor of 500. It's that times 4. So cube root of 125 is 5. So I'm going to have 4 times 5. And again, that y and the cube root, that's all going to stay there. 4x. So the 4 stays inside, and I got the y and the x from that same piece. And then the last one of 32. So that is the same thing as here. So it's going to break up. Same thing. There's just no y inside. So this last one already has a y on the outside. So we have 2 cube root of 4x. And then the y is already there for us. 2y, 4 times 5 is 20. 2 plus 20, 22. Plus 2 is 24y cube root of 4x. And that's how you do it. You could spread them out and take your time. I always circle my perfect squares or perfect roots to make it easier to follow along. So just do what works for you, because these can take some time.